Your Honor, the state would call Christopher Belfrey to the stand.
If you just stand right here, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Have a seat. Sir, in order to be able to be heard more clearly, I'm going to keep my mask on, but if you wouldn't mind, if you would take your mask off, if you'd be comfortable doing that.
I don't mind.
All right, thank you. We're going to also test out how the microphone picks you up by having you state your full name and spell each of your names.
Christopher Belfrey. ChristopherBelfrey.
All right, it sounds like it'll work fine even if you don't lean in, so
Okay. Yep.
feel free. All right,
No problem.
Mr. Frank.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Belfrey.
Good morning.
And can you tell us, sir, how old are you?
How old am I?
Yeah.
I'm 45.
Okay. And just tell us, if you would, the general area where you live.
South Minneapolis.
And on May 25th of 2020, is that where you lived?
May 25th of 2020 is where I live? No.
No. Is that where you lived on that day?
Yeah, South Minneapolis.
And how long have you lived in South Minneapolis?
About 3 years.
And you are from, well, let me ask it this way. Are you familiar with the area of 38th in Chicago?
Yes.
And is there a store at one of the corners, at least one of the corners of 38th in Chicago?
Yes.
At least on May 25th there was.
Yes.
And is there also a restaurant there?
Yes.
What was the restaurant in that, at that intersection?
What was it?
Yeah, what was the name of it?
I really don't know.
Okay.
To tell you the truth.
On May 25th of 2020, did you go to the area of 38th in Chicago to get some food from one of those restaurants?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay.
Cup Foods.
Okay. So you went to Cup Foods to get food?
Right, but there's another restaurant across the street. I thought you was talking about that one.
I was, so my
Okay,
fault.
Right.
So you went to that intersection sometime in the late afternoon, early evening, correct?
Correct.
And where did you drive there?
Yes.
Where did you park?
On the corner of 38th and Chicago, on the 38th side, facing Bloomington, or was that Cedar?
All right.
area.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up something we've had admitted as Exhibit 1. And that should come up on the screen in front of you.
Right.
Do you see that photograph?
Right.
Do you recognize what is depicted there?
That's 38th and Chicago intersection.
All right. And you should have right in front of you a stylus like this, maybe a different color. See that? What I'd ask you to do is just, for the jurors, draw on the screen where you drove up and where you parked on that day.
Came this way, parked right here.
And when you parked there, do you recall seeing a vehicle in front of you?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember what kind of vehicle that was?
Mercedes-Benz,
Do you remember what color it was?
not right offhand.
Okay. What style of car or
It's
vehicle?
like a hatchback Mercedes-Benz, like a sports truck or something like that.
And when you pulled up there and parked, did you see something that drew your attention?
Not right offhand. Shortly after, yes, when two officers was coming across the street, I noticed them coming and they approached the vehicle in front of me. One officer drew a handgun and opened the door and pointed the gun at whoever was in the driver's seat.
So at that point in time, had you gotten your food already or not yet?
No,
Okay.
no, sir.
And so you were just sitting in your car and you see these officers pull up,
Yes, sir.
or walk up, correct?
Right.
And after seeing that, what happened next?
Kind of startled me, you know, from where I'm from, when you see
Stop right there. Don't talk about past experience. Talk about what your reaction was.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It startled me,
Yeah,
you know, when I seen the officer raise his gun.
Let me just.
I started recording.
Okay, that's exactly what I wanted to ask you
Right.
about, right? So at some point you started recording that.
Right.
And
Correct.
that was because of basically what you saw, correct?
Right.
All right. And so when you were parked there, you started making a recording, correct?
Correct.
And at some point you stopped the recording.
Correct.
Why did you stop that recording at that point in time?
Because I heard more sirens pulling up, and I didn't want to be trapped in between the whole commotion of what's going on. I didn't know exactly what was going on. It's just I didn't want to be in the middle of, you know, a bunch of commotion about what's going on. So I moved across the street.
So you moved your car.
Yes, sir.
And prior to coming into court today, did we show you a copy of that video?
Yes, sir.
And did that video truly and accurately represent what you were seeing while you were recording it?
Yes, sir.
We've marked that as Exhibit 35, and Your Honor, I would offer Exhibit 35 at this time.
No objection.
35 is received.
Okay, Mr. Belfrey, we're going to play that video for you now, and then we'll ask you some questions about it either during or after it, okay?
Okay.
Right here.
Now, when you were making that recording, do you recall if your window was down and your...
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So we were able to hear some of it on the video. Were you able to hear any better sitting there in person than with the video?
I vaguely heard most of it.
What were you kind of hearing?
I heard him asking him to let me see your hand. He's saying, please, something about I've been shot or something before. Please don't, something like that. And at that time, that's when I heard the sirens pulling up and they're pulling him out. And that's when I went to back up and turn around. When the video
Okay.
stopped.
And so I'm going to go back now to Exhibit 1. We'll put that up again. And again, if you would take the stylus and just kind of show the jurors where you went when you moved your vehicle.
Backed up. Moved the vehicle there.
So for the record, you're showing that you moved from the Dragon Walk side of 38th to the Cup Food side of 38th, correct?
Yes, sir.
And when you got over there, what did you do?
I continued to record.
And were you, well, you started recording again, correct?
Right.
And when you were recording, did you have somebody in the car with you?
Yes, my fiance. Well, she was in the car, in Cup Foods getting the food. So by the time I turned around, she came out and got in the car.
And so during that recording, some conversations between you and her were also recorded.
Yes, sir.
And so did you start recording then at that point?
Yes, sir.
All right. And prior to coming into court, did you also have a chance to review that video?
Yes, sir.
And it appears to be a true and accurate copy of the actual video you made.
Most definitely.
Now, I will tell you that we have deleted the audio from this video.
Yes, sir.
Conversation that you and your fiance had, it's not important, it's the video.
Right.
Okay.
Sure.
And so we have marked that as Exhibit 36, and we would offer it at this time.
Any objection? 36.
All right, so now we'll show Exhibit 36. Now, I'd ask to pause it right here, please. And there's no timestamp on the video, so we will do our best to describe it. Oh, there is a timestamp on the video. This will be at approximately 26 seconds. Do you see that? All right. And what you're seeing here, obviously there are two officers, well, there are now 3 officers on the scene, correct?
Correct.
And the original 2 officers are in this view, and one of the officers is with the individual sitting on the ground, correct?
Correct.
The individual sitting on the ground, do you recall seeing him from when you were parked behind the Mercedes before?
Correct.
Where was that individual when you were parked behind the vehicle?
He was in the driver's seat.
So that's the same individual that in the prior video had been removed from the driver's
Correct.
seat. And did you see while you were moving the car how those 2 officers and that individual went from the Mercedes in the prior video to where they are now?
Correct.
How did that happen?
They brought him out, walked him over to the sidewalk, sat him down. One officer then went over to the other people that was in the vehicle and started asking them questions.
And then the other officer had the driver sit on the ground there where we see him now?
Correct.
All right. So then we'll continue to play Exhibit 36, please. So Exhibit 36 has ended, and you stopped filming at that moment?
Yes, sir.
And why did you stop recording then?
Slightly still kind of scared, nervous. One of the officers kept staring at me like while I was recording. So I kind of put it down, and then I went to record again, but I was like, I really don't want any problems, so I stopped recording.
At that point, did you think that this incident with this individual and the officers was over?
Somewhat I seen, when I stopped recording, I drove towards the corner as they crossed over with George, the two officers that came and approached him in the first place. They went to walk him across the street. Then when we went to turn to go back home, we seen them placing him in the police car. So that's all I seen, and I kept on driving. I thought he was detained. I thought it was over, so I kept on going home.
Now, you referred to George.
Yes.
Who do you mean by that?
I felt that George was detained.
Okay. But when you use the name George, this individual who was removed from the SUV, the Mercedes, did you know that gentleman?
No, not at all.
Have you subsequent to this learned who that was?
Yes, sir.
Was that George Floyd?
Yes, sir.
All right. So you saw them moving Mr. Floyd after you stopped recording?
Right. Yes, sir.
So I'm going to put Exhibit 1 back up, please. And if you would, again, show the jurors, where you saw them. Well, if you would just put an X on here where you were parked when you made that second video. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. Ooh. How you take
Should we
that
try
out?
again? Okay. And then if you would, show the jurors where you saw them walking Mr. Floyd after you stopped recording.
And walking him this way.
And so then at some point you started up your car and drove off out of the area.
Correct.
And can you show the jurors where you drove when you did that? And so the record should reflect you turned from 38th Street to go what would be southbound on Chicago.
Correct.
All right. And the record should also reflect that you're indicating the officers walking Mr. Floyd from the Dragon Walk corner, what would be northbound on Chicago, correct?
Correct.
Towards the Cup Food Store.
Correct.
Now, when you turned and went south on Chicago, had they already walked Mr. Floyd in front of you over to that, or did you cut in front of them? Do you know what I mean?
I believe they already crossed. I'm not sure, to tell you the truth. It was a while ago. I'm not sure if they was before or after, to tell you the truth.
But at one point you said earlier that you saw them putting him in a squad car.
Right.
Where did you
Correct.
see that taking place?
Over here.
So when you turned to go southbound, is that when you looked to see?
Behind us. In the rear view. Yeah.
Okay. And then have anything else to do with that scene that night?
Nope. That's it.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Any cross? Yeah. Sir, you may step down. Thank you.